I'd like to call this meeting to order at 5 o'clock. We are going to be meeting in closed session on items, I left my script in there, Mr. 1, 2, and 3, I believe. Okay, 1, 2, and 3. Are there any blue cards, Mr. Riley?
Madam President, there are no blue cards.
Thank you. We'll recess to closed session. All right, let's get started. I'd like to call this meeting back to order and announce it at 6 o'clock. Or announce that the board met in closed session and no action was taken. Good evening and welcome to the Elk Grove Unified School District's board meeting. Live streaming of full in-person board meetings is available to the public by using the link located on the district's website. Today's meeting is being video recorded and will be available to you on the district's YouTube channel. We encourage you to attend the meeting and share your feedback with the board. Your active participation is valued and contributes to the decision-making process. During regular board meetings, the public may make public comments for the items on the agenda or items not on the agenda. Requests to make public comment will be accepted for an item up until the board president introduces the item. Generally, members of the public will be given 3 minutes to address the board. If there are 15 or more comments on a specific item, the board will reduce individual comments time to 2 minutes each. If there are 30 or more comments on a specific item, the board will reduce individual comments to 1 minute each. Individuals may not divert their time to another individual speaker to increase their total speaking time. Please be mindful that district students are watching. You are encouraged to address the board and the public in a respectful manner, such that all those observing, from children to adults, are made to feel welcome, safe, and valued. The board shall not permit any disturbance or willful interruption of board meetings. Persistent disruption by an individual or group shall be grounds for the board president to provide a warning and then to terminate the individual's privilege of addressing the board. We always start with our land acknowledgement. I'd like to call on Mr. Zong.
We acknowledge that the Elk Grove Unified School District administrative facilities and schools occupy the unceded territory of the Miwok, the original people of the skies, land, and waters where we work and learn. The Miwok have cared for these lands since time immemorial. They continue to teach their traditional knowledge that comes from and responds to the needs of the land and people who share it. May our daily lives and work teaching, learning, leadership, and community engagement support the evolving vision of the Miwok for their community and these lands. May we strive to acknowledge the past for the betterment of our future generations. May we look to our tribal partners, the Wilton Rancheria, the descendants of the original people of this land, to assist with the successful education of our community.
Thank you. Next, we have our Pledge of Allegiance. Unfortunately, our honoree, Melody Palmera, is out sick, but in her place, we have Justine Fuller will come up to accept. Thank you. And I wanted to call on Miss Susan Davis to read the bio.
Las Flores K-12 is honored to recognize Miss Melody Palmera as our educational partner. Elk Grove Unified School District recognizes Miss Palmera and her family for their ongoing contributions to the Las Flores community and school programs. Miss Palmera is the proud parent of a fourth grader, Penelope, a Las Flores Virtual Academy student since kindergarten. She is an active member of our parent volunteer organization and supports the campus community in helping to develop our family engagement events. Last year, she donated gratitude journals to all of our third grade students as the teacher incorporated journaling into the daily writing activities. And this year, the family donated a Lego raffle basket and the art activities for family movie night. Penny is a member of our digital media club, creating online content for the campus, attends the after-school art and creative writing classes on campus, and is often at our Thursday PE and pancakes. Penny was also a part of the STEAM and Lego club last year. Since Las Flores is a virtual campus, her family spends a lot of time bringing Penny to campus to engage in school activities. Ms. Palmera and Mr. Blair are both integral parts of their daughter's education and support her as she strives to reach her goals and aspirations. Melody Palmera, the staff and students at Las Flores recognize and appreciate your support and dedication and look forward to many more years working together. You will forever be an esteemed member of our Falcon family. And would you like to lead the pledge? I pledge allegiance.
Salute.
Okay.
Sorry.
Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Thank you. Well, next, we'd like to have our student regional report. We're highlighting Calvine High School and the Sheldon region.
Good morning, members of the board, Superintendent Riley, and Ms. Avalos. My name is Brian Nicasio, and I'm currently a sophomore at Sheldon High School. Welcome to the Sheldon High School. Sorry, give me a second. Welcome to the Sheldon High School Quiz Show, where today the tables have officially turned, where the contestants aren't students, but it's the board members. They've agreed to put their knowledge, their pride, and possibly their dignity on the lines as they battle out for the ultimate bragging rights and highly coveted Sheldon region swag. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. This should be interesting. Let's get started. Question number 1. Which Sheldon region school has strong VAPA program and has held 2 musical performances this school year? Please hold up your letter. And the answer is B, Robert J. Fight Elementary.
Hello, and good evening, EGUSD school board members. My name is Dallas Starkey, and I am a 5th grade student in Mr. Mar's class at Robert J. Fight Elementary. We are here tonight to tell you why we are proud to be Fight Falcons. The students at Fight Elementary have many visual and performing arts opportunities. Students receive weekly music lessons from New Songs School of Music teachers in class, and our after-school music programs are packed with creativity. We have students in band, choir, and even a drum club. This past December, we put on 2 musical performances for grades 1 through 6th, and it was awesome to see the whole school come together to make something magical.
But we aren't just about the arts. We're a school on the move. My name is Ruby Munoz, and I'm a 6th grade student in Miss Guzman's class at Fight Elementary. In addition to our VAPA programs, our school participates in athletic and community events. This year so far, we've had a run club that participated in the Running for Rhett 5K race. Our basketball team has a winning record, and the 5th grade students honored our Armed Forces community members with a special Veterans Day concert and are currently practicing for the annual Memorial Day concert. We also made sure to honor history during the Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day in November. Other extracurricular activities include chess club and CREST, an after-school STEM program for GATE students.
All of that energy outside of the classroom mirrors the hard work students put towards academics each day. My name is Araya Zhang, and I am a 5th grade student in Ms. DeMar's class at Fight. We were so excited when Fight was named as a 2025 California Distinguished School. Our school received this honor for showing increased English language art scores, strong math skills, and the many students who have achieved English learner reclassification this year. We love our school, we love our teachers, and we want to thank you for supporting us. We're proof that when you have a great community, you can soar.
Because at our school, every day is a great day to be a Fight Falcon.
Okay. Thank you. Question number 2. Which elementary school prides themselves as being second home to students, parents, and staff? And the answer is Mayola Beitzel Elementary School.
Hello, my name is Zoe Marnett.
And my name is Mateo Garcia Estrada.
We are 6th grade students at Mayola R. Beitzel Elementary School, and we are here to tell you why Beitzel is a second home to students, families, and staff. From every Monday morning until every Friday afternoon, students, families, and staff are welcomed with open arms.
As a platinum implemented PBIS school, Beitzel students are respectful, observant, accountable, and ready to learn.
We begin every single day off with a walk around our playground to get some exercise and prepare ourselves to learn.
Throughout the week, students carry Bobcat bucks, and on Friday we roar to success when Bobcat bucks are pulled for prizes throughout the school for outstanding conduct and behavior. Beitzel's family and community activities include our annual trunk or treat,
our harvest festival,
our holiday PJs and pancakes,
our multicultural fair in the spring,
FTAT, or Family Teacher Academic Team activities through the Elk Grove Unified School District's FACE Department,
and our 4 very well-attended Picnic with Parents days.
In 2026, we are so proud to announce that our 6th grade students will be attending Sly Park for the first time since COVID. This has been a huge accomplishment by our 6th grade teachers, students, and families.
At Mayola R. Beitzel Elementary School, we take pride in making Beitzel a second home to students, families, and staff. We are so proud to be part of the Sheldon region of schools and proud to be part of the Elk Grove Unified School District. Thank you.
Thank you. On to question 3. What Sheldon Region School is partnering with 5 other district schools to create a cooperative theater productive? And the answer is A, Smegford Middle School.
Good evening, board presidents, members of the board, Superintendent Riley, and Mrs. Avalos. My name is Christopher Vigil Perez. I'm an 8th grader at TR Smedberg and an ASB. I'll be talking about athletics and clubs. Clubs at Smedberg are during school hours, and we have many clubs to choose from, like Asian Pacific Islander Club, Art Club, Crochet Club, and many more.
Hello, my name is Karina Johnson. We have a club rally coming up soon, March 4th, where clubs get the opportunity to perform or host games. Speaking of games, here at Smedberg, we have basketball, volleyball, cross country, wrestling, also track and field. Everyone is invited to all home games.
Hello, EGUSD board. My name is Tiffany Kwong, and I'll be talking about electives and programs here at TR Smedberg. We offer many electives like art, band, theater, woodshop, digital media, our newest elective, ceramics, and so much more.
Hi, my name is Nara Karaoke. Students can take up to 2 electives, and if you're taking them before, you can move on to higher levels like Band 2, Theater 2, Art 2, and Woodshop 2. We also have fun and amazing events like Celebrate Smedberg, Club Rallies, 7th and 8th grade rallies, and so much more. Thank you, EGUSD, for your time, and have a wonderful night.
Thank you. And on to question 4. Which Sheldon Region School has a student boat team? BOAT. And the answer is Arthur C. Butler Elementary School.
Hello, my name is Sofia Salas.
My name is Titus Granadilson Palacios.
My name is Emerald Tensi. We are students at Arthur C. Butler Elementary School.
Our boat team is the Butler Organization and Accountability Team. That's our student leadership group.
Our campus is home to students from many different backgrounds and nationalities, including Hispanic, European, South American, Asian, and African American cultures. Each spring, our school celebrates this diversity by hosting a multicultural festival. During this event, we enjoy food from various cultures, watch traditional dances from around the world, and explore artwork representing different parts of the globe. I would also like to talk about our school community. The teachers at Butler are supportive and dedicated to helping us succeed, both academically and personally. We practice being safe, respectful, and responsible, and are taught to treat others with kindness.
I will be talking about AVID and Recess. In AVID, we learn important skills like note-taking, binder organization, wicker, and even more. Here at Butler, we have events like AVID Family Night, which allows our families to see what we are learning and support us. For Recess, we play games such as Gaga Ball, Tetherball, and even unique games like Jenga, Connect 4, and more. AVID and Recess help us grow, making our school a great place to learn.
Arthur C. Butler enhances student life through a variety of clubs and traditions for his students' interests. Students can choose from many different clubs such as Drama Club, Media Club, and Running for Red Club. Butler also has a basketball team that fosters school spirit and sportsmanship. Our school celebrates an important tradition, including our Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day. Together, these clubs and traditions enrich the environment and create a strong, supportive school community.
Thank you. Question number 5. Which Sheldon Region school did 2024 Grammy winner Victoria Monet attend? And the answer is Sheldon High School.
Hello everyone, my name is Araceli Ariola and I'm currently a sophomore at Sheldon High School. And when people ask me why I love going to Sheldon, it's honestly the options. You're not just stuck on one path. There are academies and multiple pathways that can actually help you figure out what you're into.
And the academics are huge, whether you're into arts, technology, leadership, or college prep. There's something that fits. It makes school feel more connected to real life.
And teachers really support that. They want you to succeed and they're not just worried on, they really want you to succeed in your pathway and not just worried on passing classes.
Plus, Sheldon sports are next level. It ranges from football, soccer, baseball, and much more. You'll find there's a place for everyone, whether you're in varsity or just starting out.
The school spirit is real. Games, rallies, clubs, there's always something happening.
Sheldon High School isn't just a school, it's a community, and that helps you find your passion and helps you push yourself.
We know this regional board only happens once a year, but we encourage all of you to come out and see the new and exciting things happening this year. Thank you.
Question number 6. Which elementary school will publish an original book of student-authorized short stories this year? And the answer is Mary Tsukamoto Elementary School.
Good evening, members of the school board and Superintendent Riley. My name is Jasmine Abero, and I'm a 4th grader here at Mary Tsukamoto. We love our school because it's a safe and welcoming place where everyone belongs. One of the best parts of our school is our enrichment activities. We have sports like football, basketball, volleyball, and track. We also have an after-school dance team with Royal Dance, Choir, MTS News, and Student Council. In our creative writing club, we are excited to have our short stories published in a book next month. These activities help us build confidence, teamwork, and friendships. Our school also includes families through events like our Harvest Festival and our multicultural celebration coming up in March, which brings our community together.
My name is Saúl del Toro, and I'm a 5th grader here at Mary Tsukamoto. Another reason we love our school is our strong focus on learning and growth. Our school-wide focus on writing, AVID, and strengthening math skills helps prepare us for middle school and beyond. Our teachers take the time to make sure we are engaged, participating, and understanding each lesson. We have opportunities to work with our classmates and build our collaboration skills. Our teachers believe in us and want the best for every student. At our school, teachers work hard to make sure every student is learning in every classroom every day. Thank you for listening.
And for our last question, question 7. Which Sheldon Region school has a thriving air conditioning CTE program that leads into dual enrollment opportunities with Sac City College and certified employment? And the answer is Calvine High School.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Emma Harbison, and this is Brandon Lee. We are seniors at Calvine High School. We are here tonight to represent Calvine High School, the only California model continuation high school in our district.
Before coming to Calvine, many of us felt lost at larger comprehensive schools, but at Calvine, the smaller setting changed everything. For the first time, me and my peers can see that our goals are attainable and we're seen, heard, and supported by all of our teachers.
It's about connections. Our teachers truly understand the challenges we face in and out of school. They meet us where we are, helping us experience the kind of immediate success we never thought was possible. With that supportive foundation, many of us engage in school in ways we never had. 20% of our school body is involved in campus clubs and activities.
We are also proud to share that Calvine has earned awards such as the Student Equity Council grant to bring multicultural awareness to our campus, as well as the PBIS Gold Award for our positive school culture. This environment isn't just about getting a diploma, it's about getting ready for college and the life we have ahead of us.
At Calvine, we don't just graduate, we thrive. Thank you for continuing to invest in our success and in the unique community that makes our goals reachable. Thank you.
And that's wraps for today's Sheldon Region Quiz Show. A huge thank you for our EGUSD board members and for being great sports, putting their knowledge to the test, and proving they're willing to risk it all for some Sheldon Region swag. Congratulations to all our winners. Thank you for participating. I'm Brian, and we'll see you next time at the Sheldon Region Quiz, where we're learning meets bragging rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent job. I wanted to thank the principals who came with their schools tonight. Kelly Park from Calvine High School. Leticia Buscio from Sheldon High School. Richard Wall from Smedberg Middle School. Lynn Garvik from Beitzel Elementary School. Sharon Hamlin from Butler Elementary School. Diane Standridge from Fite Elementary School. And Molly Sangalang from Tsukumoto. Students and principals, thank you for coming tonight. Everyone's dismissed. Next, we have our athletic recognition of fall CIF champions. I'm going to ask Jennifer, I'm sorry, Miss Ballerini, if she will help Mr. Nickerson present the item. Give us just a minute so they get the attention they deserve. Thank you. If we can quiet the room for our next presentation, please. Mr. Nickerson.
Thank you. Good evening, President Albiani, members of the school board, Superintendent Riley, and Ms. Avalos. Tonight, I'm honored to introduce you to two very special athletes again. These two young ladies, who are juniors at Consumnes Oaks High School, won the CIF Division I Section Doubles Tennis Championship. Coach Chris Wall assisted these two outstanding representatives in defending their title, and they are now three-time CIF section champions. I'd now like to introduce their head coach, Chris Wall, who will introduce his athlete.
Hello, good evening. I've been the coach at CO since the school opened, and I have actually had the honor of being here many times, as several of you have seen me before. I believe my count now is 11 individual section titles under my coaching, but this is the first time that I've had a player or a team in this situation that have won the section title 3 times in a row. So it's a pretty special title to see these two girls who have played together in many, many tournaments outside of the school together, and to have them have such camaraderie with each other, the way they work together on the court, and the way that they are so easily coachable. This was not an easy task. Both last year and this year were against the same opponent, and both times it was extended to a third set, and we were behind in both of the matches and ended up pulling both of them out and coming back and winning. So that's an incredible feat. So I'd like to introduce one of those, Sydney, couldn't be here tonight. She wasn't feeling well. So unfortunately, she's gonna miss out this one. And Gabby Williams is here with us tonight. And we just want to say that we are going to be back here next year, okay? All right.
That's very impressive. Congratulations. Our next item is the Elk Grove Unified School District Honor Roll recognition by Education Results Partnership. Ms. Lavasser, if you'll present, please.
All right, good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Riley, and Ms. Avalos. Tonight, the Board of Education is asked to receive an honor roll recognition from the Educational Results Partnership. Educational Results Partnership would like to recognize the 17 schools that you see on the screen here as the honor roll schools of Elk Grove Unified School District. Honor roll schools are selected based on consistent above-average performance on California state assessments over the past 3 years. Now, for the recognition, I'd like to introduce Alex Barrios, the CEO of Educational Results Partnership.
Good evening, President Albiani and members of the board, Superintendent Riley, and members of the community. We're very honored to be here. I'm Alex Barrios with Educational Results Partnership. If you don't know about us, we're a nonprofit data science organization located here in Sacramento. and we are committed to ensuring more students enter the workforce with the skills that today's global economy demands. We created the annual honor roll 12 years ago for the purpose of recognizing schools that are delivering strong, sustained academic results for all students. And year after year and across all of these students groups, recognizing those educators who are closing achievement gaps. We partner with the business community to promote honor roll schools. And this year, as Lisa mentioned, Elk Grove Unified School District was the only district in Sacramento County to achieve honor roll district status. So congratulations to all of you on a great job well done. You can clap. This places Elk Grove among only 158 districts statewide to earn this recognition. So this is a very important distinction. And it's an extraordinary accomplishment, and it really speaks to system-wide excellence here. So great job. We're also proud to recognize these 17 honor roll schools that you see up here on the screen because they became honor roll schools, and they're just one of 20% of schools statewide to receive this recognition. So these are not only some of the best schools in Elk Grove, but in the state of California. So congratulations to the honor roll schools. We know that this recognition matters, especially when it comes from the business community. And because we know strong schools are the foundation of a strong workforce and a strong regional economy. That's why we're grateful to our sponsor, Golden One Credit Union, who is a sponsor of the honor roll this year, as well as the Sacramento Metro Chamber of Commerce, which is our local business partner in presenting this honor roll recognition. I also want to thank Jizzy Bermudez with Assemblymember Stephanie Nguyen's office, who's here to present certificates of recognition. And I believe he's got a couple of words he'd like to share as well. So I'll hand the mic over to him before we take some pictures.
Good evening, President Albiani, members of the board, and Superintendent Riley. My name is Jesse Bermudez, and I have the pleasure of serving as District Director for Assemblymember Stephanie Nguyen. Assemblymember Nguyen couldn't be here today due to a scheduling conflict, but she did want me to share her deep appreciation and pride as we celebrate the outstanding work that the schools have done. On a personal note, I wanted to mention that I have 2 children that attend schools on this list. So I do want you to know that at home we do see the hard work that everybody is doing throughout the district, the board, the staff, and I personally also want to thank you for the work that you do. So on behalf of the state of California and the office of Assemblymember Stephanie Nguyen, I want to extend our heartfelt congratulations to the Elk Grove Unified School District, the board, and each school that's being honored tonight. And we have certificates for each of the schools.
Thank you very much. We'd like the whole board to join us down below for a photo and take the certificate. That's exciting. All right. Our next item is resolutions. We're going to start with World Rare Disease Day. Mr. Singh?
Good evening, Madam President, Ms. Albiani, members of the board, Superintendent Riley, community and colleagues. I'm going to ask you to say this 5 times after I'm done, so make sure you're paying attention. The board is asked to approve and adopt resolution number 48 for 25-26, which will recognize February 28th, 2026 as World Rare Disease Day. This recognition is part of the district-wide awareness for rare diseases and to advocate and improve access to treatments and medical representation for individuals with rare diseases and their families. World Rare Disease Day is observed on the last day of February across the world, and on this day, various activities take place in the United States, Europe, Russia, Japan, and elsewhere in the world. Recognizing that 80% of rare diseases have identified genetic origins and 50% of rare diseases touch children, the goal of this observance within the district are the following: to generate curiosity in students on the topic of rare diseases and to encourage them to take interest in new fields of science, to promote awareness and understanding and to create compassion for other people with a rare disease, and to join in on a global partnership supporting the search for ways to improve the lives of those affected by rare diseases. With that, this recognition will declare district support for the worldwide campaign to create awareness of rare diseases, and I humbly ask the board to approve and adopt Resolution 48, which will recognize February 28, 2026 as World Rare Disease Day.
Thank you. Are there any blue cards on this item?
Madam President, there are no blue cards on this item.
Thank you. I'd like to call for a motion to adopt resolution number 48, recognizing February 28, 2026 as World Rare Disease Day.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Baldwin, seconded by Mr. Vargas. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is the recognition of School Counseling Week.
Good evening, board members, President, Superintendent Riley, Savalos. My name is Nicole Brown, District Head Counselor, proud District Head Counselor for Elk Grove Unified School District, and I'd like to read the resolution this evening. The week of February 2nd through the 6th, 2026 marks National School Counseling Week. This year's theme, School Counselors Amplify Student Success. It provides the board with an opportunity to focus public attention on the unique contributions of school counselors within the Elk Grove Unified School District through academic, college career, and social emotional counseling. School counselors provide essential educational support services for positive academic and post-secondary outcomes for all students. EGUSD school counselors focus on early intervention and prevention by providing direct student services within comprehensive school counseling frameworks and serve as an integral component to the district's multi-tiered systems of student support and promoting equitable treatment of all students. EGUSD school counselors have aligned their work with the standards developed by the National School Counselor Association and the California Association of School Counselors. And school counselors do this to ensure the fidelity of their implementation of their services delivery model. The district appreciates and recognizes the unique, important work of school counselors in providing students with the necessary support for their academic, social, emotional, and post-secondary success. This evening, we ask the board to approve the resolution number 47 to recognize EGUSD school counselors during National School Counselor Week. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Do we have any blue cards on this item?
Madam President, there are no blue cards on this item.
I would like to call for a motion to approve resolution number 47, recognizing February 2nd through 6th, 2026 as National School Counseling Week.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Vargas, seconded by Ms. Baldwin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Let's have a round of applause while we gather to take a picture, please.
You're going to have to do a couple of rows.
My pictures for my campaign.
Ms. Baldwin, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, in further recognition, just thank you, all the counselors. You, in a lot of cases, ultimately save lives. Like, you do tremendous work behind the scenes that no one gets to know about, and I just want you all to know that it is seen and recognized beyond what we could ever really, truly understand. And I just really hope that you all truly know that. Big shout out to Miss Sievertson. I think she walked out. That's my daughter's counselor. And her and I have actually been working closely this past week together. All because I know that she's truly looking out for my kiddo when I can't be there. And it's just it feels really good as a parent to know that you all are in these roles looking out for our students and really truly care about their success. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you. Our next item is a request for student expulsion. Does anyone wish to address the board in closed session regarding a student expulsion? Seeing no one, I'd like to call for a motion to approve the recommendations for student expulsion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Vargas, seconded by Ms. Ballerini. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And a request for student return from expulsions. I'd like to call for a motion to approve the recommendations for students seeking readmission from expulsion to the Elk Grove Unified School District.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Vargas, seconded by Ms. Ballerini. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Our next item is public comment. Are there any blue cards?
Madam President, there are no blue cards for public comment.
Thank you. Our next item is the consent agenda. Are there any blue cards related to the consent agenda?
Madam President, there are no blue cards on the consent agenda.
Thank you. So I would like to call for a motion to approve items 1 through 9 on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Vargas, seconded by Ms. Baldwin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is bargaining units. Do we have any bargaining units that would like to address the board? Thank you.
Good evening, President Albiani, Superintendent Riley, members of the board. It's good to see you this evening. There's no doubt that all of us work tirelessly at our jobs with a focus on meeting the needs of our students. No matter what role individuals play in education, we are never recognized nor thanked enough for the work that is done behind the scenes, like the counselors, as well as in the public eye. So before I make my remarks on a board agenda item, I want you to know that we do see you, the work that you do, and the challenges that you face. The last negotiation cycle was very challenging, given the funding that EGUSD receives in comparison to many of our neighbors. We appreciate the collaboration in reaching an agreement that took risks based on contingencies that we are pleased have been met to date. Unfortunately, we have not been able to find enough funding to keep all employees in their positions, resulting in the board having to make difficult decisions in the budget priority process. Many individuals are having to find new positions. Others have been released from their temporary positions. This is always difficult to see happening in a district that prides itself on services to students. It is in light of these challenging funding times that we struggle with a proposal to increase board compensation as outlined. We understand what AB 1390 allows, and we are not saying that board members shouldn't earn a degree of compensation. What we are questioning is whether this is the right time to dramatically increase that compensation. Our members, as well as the public, are constantly scrutinizing how districts spend their money on the classroom or on management level positions. If the board were to increase their compensation, it would be more reasonable to do it at a time when we are more secure in our budget. Everyone is getting raises, and it is more in alignment with, with what has been agreed upon for all the units. It is also very unsettling to see the increase of up to 5% annually when we're often fighting for 1 to 3% with contingencies. Again, we are not negating the fact that the job of a school board member should be compensated based on the work that they perform. We are just questioning the timing of such a decision and the 400% increase from $750 to $3,000. We have never had a board that makes decisions because that is what the law allows them to do. We have always had leaders who are fiduciaries of our finances, our students' futures, our district reputation, and the well-being of all of our employees. We ask that you think carefully about the compensation that you vote for yourselves and for future board members, the impact on the district budget, and the public's view of this action. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sutter. Are there any other unions wishing to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on. We're on reports and discussion items. Mr. Schweitzer, the 2026-2027 open enrollment requests.
I didn't think I'd be up here this quick tonight. All right. Board President Albiani, members of the board, Superintendent Riley, and Ms. Avalos are here this evening to review the open enrollment guidelines and the timelines and share the results from this year's survey data. This is an informational only report. I'll do my best to wow you this evening, as you already took action back in December on our open enrollment process. So just a few reminders. We have Education Code 35160 and Board Policy 5116.1, which allow us to annually identify schools available for open enrollment. It also gives us the ability to limit open enrollment to schools that have space available based upon future student enrollment projections. The open enrollment agreement applied only to the student making the request, so siblings did both need to apply. And then once students are enrolled into that school of choice, the student did not need to reapply for open enrollment each year. Students must reapply for open enrollment as they transition from middle to high school, and parents must provide their own transportation for students. In December, you also approved our open enrollment process timeline and limiting no more than 5% of any students leaving any one school. And then this was the status of our schools for open enrollment, as well as the approved closures for next year. So Harriet Eddy was open last year. It's now capped at 50. Harris and Smedberg were capped at 50 last year, and they're now closed. And then Cosumnes Oaks was capped at 100 last year, and now we capped it at 50. And then just briefly, our open enrollment timeline. So we're still in the middle of our process here. The open enrollment window was open January 7th and it closed on January 16th. We did need to conduct a random selection process. I'll walk through that in just a moment. Parents are being notified this week that they'll be able to see their student status in Parent View and go ahead and accept their school of choice. And then they have until February 10th to accept that open enrollment school. And then after that is complete, we'll begin working on the wait list beginning the week of February 16th. So here's just a trajectory of open enrollment requests throughout the years. This year we did have 508. Breaking down the report, middle school 157, high school 351. We had about 325 fewer requests from last year. So those numbers continuing to decline. And then I'm going to take a few minutes and just pause on this slide. These are the results of our middle schools for the next few slides. So here on this slide across the top, we have our school's capacity, their projected enrollment for next year, the number of requests to and from each of the sites, what that overall net impact and the percentage of that net impact is for the school, and then you can see the previous 2 years. And just keep in mind, this is if all of the students who applied and then they get accepted into that school. So let's take a look at Catherine Albiani. You can see that their capacity is 1,417 with a projected enrollment of 1,524. They are closed, so they can't accept any students, but we did have 5 students request to leave Albiani and attend another middle school, so that would be a net impact of -5. Those -5 students represent a negative 0.3% of their enrollment. For this current year, 25-26, they were at negative 0.6, and then in 24-25, they were negative 1%. So you can see by that report, Albiani has been pretty consistent over the years with unfortunately being closed, but also just having a small number of students wanting to leave. So you can see all of the schools that are closed for open enrollment: Albiani, Harris, Johnson, Pinkerton, and Smedberg. Looking at Harriet Eddy, they were capped at 50 students coming in. So I can see that they had 65 requests coming in with 15 requests going out for a total of 50. So all of the students who applied to Harriet Eddy will be able to get in. So there are a few trends that I notice. The trend is upward for Harriet Eddy and Kerr, with more students opting in to go to those schools over the past 3 years. Here comes my wow. Jackman and Rudder are losing less students each year, and no schools this year are going to be impacted by the 5% rule limiting the number of students to leave. And I think that's the first time in my time here that that's happened. So excellent news for the schools. We're keeping our kids in our schools, and that's the ideal. So this slide shows the number of students who want to transfer into middle schools and the schools they are coming from. So across the top of the school, we have the receiving school. Down the left-hand side, we have our sending schools. So let's take a look at Harriet Eddy there in the second column. At the bottom, we can see that they had 65 students requesting to attend there next year. 11 students currently attending Harris are wanting to go to Harriet Eddy. Jackman had 30 wanting to attend, Toby Johnson 2, and so on down the road to get to the 65. So that's a look of the overall sending and receiving schools. Then we take a look at the grades, so kind of a similar report. Number of students in middle school outgoing by grade. Easy example, Albiani had 5 students, 4 were in 7th grade, 1 was in 8th grade. And then similarly, the incoming by grade, we can see pretty clearly a majority of our students wanting middle school open enrollment, 143 are in the 7th grade. We break down the information by grade as well as by ethnicity. So you can see that Albiani had those 5 students. 1 was Asian, 2 were Hispanic, and 2 were white. Majority of the students participating in an open enrollment by ethnicity. We had 66 Hispanic, 28 Asian, 23 were 2 or more races, 19 white, and 13 African American. Then we have a similar report, middle school incoming by ethnicity, so you can see where students are wanting to go by their ethnicity. We'll switch over to high schools, and we have the same report overall for the high school, but their capacities and projected enrollments. We can see which sites are closed, and then we have our sites that were capped at 50 and 100. Cosumnes Oaks is a good example. They were a school that was capped at 50, They had 140 requests with only 23 students outgoing. So there's only room for 50, so that means that Cosumnes Oaks will have a wait of 67 students trying to get in. There was a request last year to review our waitlist policy. I did look at all of our waitlist trends over the past 4 years, and for students wanting to get into schools, they had been granted so. We did have wait lists for students wanting to leave the schools but were impacted by the 5% rule. So we have had some wait lists wanting to get out but not getting in. But this year, that number, we do have 67 wanting to get into Cosumnes Oaks. At the high school level, pretty consistent over the 3 years, looking from left to right on their net gains and losses. And then, like I said, Cosumnes Oaks will have the only wait list. Then we'll run through the same reports for the high schools. This is the overall number for high school with the receiving school across the top and the sending school down the side. And we get into our grades, and we can see that it's predominantly the 9th grade with 293 out of the 351 students who participate. Predominantly, once we get into 11th and 12th grade, kids pretty much want to stay in their high school. They want to graduate with the friends and so forth. And we get into the similar report with incoming. Unfortunately, we do have the schools that are closed. And then we get into by ethnicity. Majority of the students participating in open enrollment for high school by ethnicity, 102 Hispanic, 81 Asian, 65 white, and 45 African American. And then similarly, we can see incoming schools by ethnicity as well. Part of the open enrollment process, we also conduct a survey. You can see the responses over the last 5 or 6 years. The top 3 reasons again this year, courses or programs not being offered at the residential school, top in the list with 154 responses. Some behind the scenes, this leads to our work with our master schedules, improving our course catalogs for each site, working with Call and Career Connections team to eliminate barriers on enrollment and access to programs at students' home schools. Our counselors, many of who are here tonight, highlight pathways during the course selection process. And this year, we did advertise all of our pathways on the open enrollment website, so students had direct links to be able to review those programs. We do a lot of work with the master schedule and ABLE to help eliminate those barriers to the master schedule so students have access to all of the programs. This year new, we also sent a survey to the 154 families who marked programs not being offered at their site. We did get 17 responders, a little low, but this was the first year, so hopefully we can improve that in the future. Of the 17, 14 chose a pathway, so predominantly CTE programs that weren't being offered at their school. And then we did have 3 choose the International Baccalaureate Program, or MYP program, at Harriet Eddy and Laguna Creek. The second response was more challenging programs at their requested school. And then the third for middle school is the child care and proximity to the requested school. Safety went down this year, thankfully. That was 44 families responded that safety was a concern. We also send a survey out to families who mark safety as being a concern to those 44, and unfortunately we didn't get a single response, so no responses this year. But last year we did get responses, and we were sure to share those responses with the schools that were impacted by that choice. So similar, just our survey data by ethnicity. You can see how families are responding to the survey. And then lastly, just our continued work, continuing supporting the principals. Tonight's a great example with the Sheldon region, just promoting that regional partnership, that articulation K through 12. I think we're doing a pretty outstanding job with that. We do want to encourage students to remain at their home schools, so it's great to see those trends where students are staying in their home schools, and we did have the 5% rule this year. Always working with our regions on equity and MTSS, that support VAPA, arts, bands, and so forth. And then we know that our pathway and career tech offerings influence those decisions as well. And with that, just a quick one through with a little wow in there, and I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Are there any blue cards related to this item?
Madam President, there are no blue cards on this item.
Thank you. We had any comments? I'd start with Mr. Vargas. Did you have anything?
Sure. I didn't realize I was going to be first again. Okay. So thank you very much for the presentation. It's always really interesting to see the results. I particularly appreciated that you guys are doing a survey. So really following up on the data that we're getting with more information about why, I think is really important. I would say, I would nudge a little bit on the safety issue. That's definitely one that, is concerning. And so, as people indicate that that's the issue, right, we would definitely want to get more information about that. It is still a little concerning to have about 18% indicate that. So hopefully we can continue to work on digging down on that. I do also, along those lines, just want to surface that, for Black students and Hispanic students, the number is even higher. It's 22 and 27% respectively. So the more we can kind of, address those issues, I think the better. But I also love the fact that, students are choosing to go to Harriet Eddy and Kerr Middle School. I think those are two great schools that offer a lot to their students. So really excited to see the interest in those schools again. And I think that's all I've got. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Zong?
I have no comments.
Thank you. Ms. Ballerini? Thank you for the presentation. I did have one question. I think you kind of answered it. I didn't know if you had any more particulars on slide 19. It was courses or programs not offered at current school. They didn't mention what type of program they were looking for, did they?
Of the 17, they were all CTE programs, and it was the program wasn't offered at their home school.
So do we know which CTE program?
I do, yes.
Can you share that with us?
I'd be happy to send that to you. I have those results. Yeah.
I just was wondering where, maybe we need more of something
right.
in a different area. That's all I'm thinking of. But no, I'm glad everything worked out. It looks like everybody's where they want to be, so we're good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I want to mention Mr. Yang started feeling ill, and so he has headed home. We hope he feels better soon. And Ms. Davis.
Thank you for the presentation. It's great to see the numbers moving like that. I did have a concern that 40% of our Hispanic middle schools wanted to move out of their school, and on the survey data that 25 out of the 184 wanted to move for safety reasons. And I'd like us to look into that a little bit more. We're showing really high on our surveys. Thank you. But thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Baldwin?
No comments.
Ms. Moore?
On page 19, for the responses, that is individual responses for those numbers, not percent. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah, individual responses.
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe next time it would be helpful to do percent compared to last year, because the total has gone down, so that would be more relevant for us to maybe compare from year to year.
Happy to.
Or maybe an additional slide at least. That would be my only request, but I appreciate the information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've watched this, and it's definitely moving in the right direction. There's some of the same red flags that we've seen in the past, and we continue to work on, but also the presentation being so complete and broken out, I appreciate as well. When this first started, it was very general, and this is great information. Thank you very much. Our next item is Measure N, General Obligation First Series Bond Sale and Issuance of Lease Purchase Financing Plan. Dr. Coates?
Well, good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Riley, Ms. Avalos, staff and community. Really happy tonight to be here to, hold on, how does you do the PDF? Present. What button do I push? Anyone? Just to make it go to present. Sorry. Okay, I'll just do that. Okay, sorry about that. Excited to be here because this is the first time we've come to really talk about Measure N. And just as a reminder, Back in 2024, our community passed Measure N to improve, modernize, and build new facilities to alleviate overcrowding. And over the last year, we've finished out Measure M. We're finishing those projects this summer. And we are getting ready for the first series of Measure N. And tonight I have Lori Ranieri. She is the president of Government Financial Services, a Joint Powers Authority. We've been working with Ms. Ranieri, Elk Grove has since the late 80s. So when she was in elementary school, I would say. So she's going to come talk about our bond financing plan and the next steps as we move towards a late spring, early spring sell. So with that.
Thank you for having us. And this is a short presentation. And I have to say, this is looks to be a shorter meeting than I've gotten used to coming. So appreciate that. And if this raises any questions while I'm talking, I really don't mind being interrupted. Sometimes it's good to stop on the slide where you have the question. If you prefer to do it at the end, that's fine. I'm just letting you know I don't mind being interrupted.
It doesn't bother me, so you guys go ahead. This is a lot.
Well, I hope to make it clear. So we're going to talk about how we've updated the Measure N plan, how we implement it, next steps, and then we have some reference material. So Ms. Coates reminded everybody of the rousing success, 60% in support of Measure N. And we just remind you of what the ballot question said, because it may be quite possible that there are people who that's all they saw and they voted yes on it. Some people may have had additional information, but we always come back to that from I would say, both an ethical and kind of a legal standard. This was kind of the contract with the voters. This is what we asked them, shall we do this? And this is what they said yes to. So a reminder about tax rates. The word rate in this phrase does refer to a ratio. It is approximately debt service divided by the district's assessed value. And I say approximately because there's a lot of nuances in the tax base. And some of you might remember you've had a question or a citizen has asked you a question about a tax bill and we've looked at it. It isn't what it always seems like it might be in the most simple situation. The most simple situation that most of us experience is you own a single family home, you can see your assessed value on the bill, you see the rate applied to that, and that's all there is. But there's all kinds of property. There's agricultural inventory, there's utility property, there's all kinds of little interesting situations. And I can go into great detail about any little interesting situation you want, but not tonight in the interest of time. But if you have a citizen who is curious or has a question, please don't hesitate to make sure we get that question and we're able to help them and answer it for them. So the way it works is essentially the county, not the district, determines the tax rate each year based on what it would take to make the debt service given the district's assessed value, and each property pays its pro rata share based on its individual assessed value, not market value. So as a reminder, that is shown on the tax bill, and as another reminder, anybody can look up anybody else's tax bill. So you can look up your neighbors. I like that as a party trick, but all you have to know is the address. And so, but I find it very helpful because if I know people's assessed value in advance, when they become concerned, a lot of times I'm able to tell them, oh, you don't pay taxes on that amount that you think your house is worth. You pay on the assessed value, which in most cases, even if you just bought your house last year, the assessed value is less than the market value because generally in California, home prices rise. Although I will remind you that we had a 5-year period during the Great Recession in Elk Grove where our assessed value across the district dropped 20%. And that happens sometimes when you have that big run up, then there can be a correction. But any individual property, we could get the information, we can help people understand if they have a question, or they might understand it just by looking at their tax bill. So this is the district's total assessed value, and you can see that dip that I mentioned during the Great Recession, and you can see that last year it was almost 7%, the year before almost 6%, the year before that over 7%, the year before that 8.5%. And why do I keep going? Because that's actually pretty volatile. You know, it's just not the same steady rate every year. The other thing I want to point out is what are the drivers. At the bottom, you see the bars. Everywhere the bar is green, that means that the state announced statewide all property that doesn't have another reason to be reassessed will be reassessed upwards at 2%. And it can't exceed 2% on that statewide application. But it can be less. And you'll see in 2010, it actually was negative. And for those of us who were alive during 2010, I assure you I saw not one ticker tape parade about the tax holiday that every property owner in California got, because people didn't really notice. But the fact is that this is based on the California Consumer Price Index for the prior calendar year. And so every year at this time of year, actually, we get the announcement about what it was for last year, and that will be applied to the government year, which begins on July 1. What the assessed value increase will be. Lately, we've been experiencing right at 2%, and that is a constitutional matter that it can't exceed 2%. So the next thing is when we plan, of course, Measure N was a while ago, and we not only have the first issuance, which are coming to now, but we have other issuances in the future. So we don't expect interest rates to stay the same, and in fact, we budget for them to go up. So we take the market interest rates for AAA, and we adjust for our expected credit rating of AA2, and then we adjust for time. And the further out we're going to be selling bonds, the more we assume interest rates will go up. Now, sometimes people say, but couldn't interest rates go down? And the answer is, of course they could, and if they do, I'm always very happy, and I don't have to worry. What I have to worry about is if they go up beyond our budget. That's what I'm trying to protect the district against. And what does protection mean? I want us to be able to borrow the money that we need to do the facilities projects we said at the tax rates we estimated. Those are the financial numbers we're trying to meet. And so this just shows you, as we go out further in time, we assume more volatility on the upside. Again, if it's less, that's great. And what I always say is we like to have a plan that's feasible under adverse conditions with room for upside. So that means if the interest rates are lower, then we have room for upside. So this is another look at interest rates. This is the benchmark interest rate, and it shows you that during the planning of Measure N, it was, to us, 3.34 is much lower than 3.84, which is still lower than 4.14, but you can see we're not hitting what we really expected, we budgeted for the market to be. So that conservative budgeting is a good thing for our planning. And so here's what we're planning. We're planning to issue the $542 million of bonds in 4 series. Now, why don't we issue it all at once? If we issue it all at once, the taxpayers have to start paying taxes on everything we just borrowed, and we can't spend it that fast. And in fact, the federal government limits the expenditure period. We have to have an intended expenditure period of 3 years. Believe it or not, we actually have a certificate that we sign when we sell bonds that says what our intentions are, and this shows what our intentions are. We plan to spend the money within 2 years and then do another bond sale. Now, if it ends up getting delayed, that's fine. We can even move it forward. It's just a question of what our intention is. And they don't have to be perfectly symmetrical like this at the 136, 136, 135, 135. That's just an easy way to start. Once we start spending the money and we have more accurate cash flow picture, we can adjust the second series and so on. So this is just giving you a picture of the rate at which we expect to borrow. And then also remember that there are costs of issuance when we sell bonds, so we don't expect to get the full $542 million. We expect to get $533,450,000. And that's a nominal number. Okay, now here's the tax rate. Our estimated maximum tax levy was $34. Pre-election, that's what we estimated. We are now estimating $32.90. And you might say, why is the maximum lower when you just showed us that interest rates were higher? it's because our tax base grew more than we expected. Does that make sense? That's another area of conservatism. We got more growth, so we're spreading the burden over more value, and that means that the rate is lower. Now, these numbers will be updated again, and for those of you who are used to these presentations, you'll remember we do a long-range plan, then we're at the point of selling the bonds, we do a short-range plan, then we sell the bonds, then we have the results. So you see these graphs and you see the information change as we go. So we're now at the implementation step, and there's the competitive process, which is taking bids, or the negotiated process, which is choosing an underwriter and working with them. And the Government Finance Officers Association recommends that we use the method of sale most likely to achieve the lowest cost of borrowing, while considering both short-range and long-range implications for taxpayers and ratepayers. Now, you recall that Ms. Coates reminded us that we are a joint powers authority, of which Elk Grove Unified is one of our leading lights, one of our founding members. Ms. Coates serves on our board. And one of the tenets of the joint powers authority is that our members act with ethics, transparency, and in accord with best practices. And that's one of the reasons I share this best practice with you. So our recommendation is a competitive bid process based on a very detailed review. The GFOA has a multi-page document on how to look at competitive versus negotiated sales. And so that's our first place. But then we also look at the history of the district's sales. And you can see here that going back to 2012, which to me seems like yesterday, but it is 14 years ago, we've had 52 bids. And the winning bidder, some of the names might be familiar to you: Citigroup, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, but you might not have heard of Mesro. And every winning bidder was forced into the win by all the other bidders. So when you see 7 bids, 10 bids, I don't believe we would have gotten the same bid from Morgan Stanley when we got 9 other bids, right? They know that there are other bids coming, and it causes them to bid more aggressively, if that makes sense. One of the interesting things about our bidders is they do way more business with each other than they do with us. The municipal bond market has $4 trillion of bonds outstanding. So when we come to market, it's a big deal for us, but it's another bond sale for them, right? They're buying and selling to each other in the secondary market and buying lots of bonds in the primary market. So what are our next steps? Tonight is information. On March 3rd would be the adoption of a resolution authorizing the issuance of the bonds and approving a long sheaf of legal documents, which some of you may recall from other bond sales. And if they feel overwhelming, just let us know. We do provide a cover memo that tries to explain them, but happy to walk anybody through who would like. Currently, our sale date is scheduled for March 24th. Now, how do we choose the date? The date is chosen based on when we need the money, and our financial modeling is based on when we sell bonds, then we close bonds, when will the interest payments be, how does that work with the tax collection dates? All those dates need to be harmonized. But within a few days of that period of March 24th, we do reserve the right to move the date if something happens. Now, what might happen? Well, I guess I don't need to point out the world we live in, but there can be all kinds of things that cause a shudder in the market, right? Something that is warlike could create a shudder in the market. Really bad economic news. But what actually is much more influential in the municipal bond market than those big global announcements is something like the state of California announcing a big bond sale. Because our buyers should be California taxpayers or investors from states that don't have a state income tax, because our bonds are double tax-free. So if you're a Californian, you want to buy bonds issued by a California public agency if you're looking for a tax-exempt municipal bond. So if a big issuer, and usually it's the state, if they were announcing a bond sale on the very same day as us, we might actually move our bond sale by a day to get into the market ahead of them, because they're going to splash all the water out of the pool. So we do watch that date. Now, I mentioned the date because that is the date we're focused on. It might move a little bit, but we do invite anyone who wants to learn more about the bond sale and participate more to attend. And the way we attend is that you get on a Zoom with me and I describe everything that's happening that our staff and the markets are doing, but you can't really see all that because that's happening in other people's offices, but I give it to you in real time because I'm getting the reports of what's happening. So just letting you know that is an opportunity. And I have to say, every now and then I've had students interested, and that's always fun. April 7th is when the bond proceeds are deposited with the county, and the reason it's with the county is that's the law. They are your bank. So sometimes I get the question, could we give it to our local bank? And the answer is no. The law requires that the school funds, unless they were surplus, they need to be deposited in the county treasury. And that's also for safety reasons. You know, they invest very conservatively. And then at a future board meeting, and the date's not selected yet, we would present the bond sale results. So I heard the sentence, "That's a lot," but I feel like that was just right. How do you feel?
That was great. It always is. You're very good at this. It's amazing. We didn't have questions along the way, but Mr. Zong, do you have any questions? Oh, I'm sorry. First of all, are there any blue cards?
Madam President, there are no blue cards on this item.
Thank you. Mr. Zong, do you have any questions?
I have absolutely no questions.
Ms. Ballerini?
I don't have any questions. I just love the way Lori always just puts it out there and makes it easily understandable. So I appreciate all you do, and say hi to your puppy for me.
She's with me.
Oh, there she is. I was like, I didn't see her.
My
Where'd she
service
go?
dog, Millie, whose job it is to never leave my side and keep her eye on me 24/7, has apparently settled in with Ms. Coates.
You know.
She has a dog league.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Davis?
Thank you for the presentation, but I have no questions at this time.
Ms. Baldwin?
Thank you for the presentations, no questions. I may, if I'm feeling brave, take you up on that play-by-play, but we'll see.
Ms. Moore?
I really do appreciate the presentation and the breakdown, so, but I do not have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Vargas?
No questions, but thank you very much.
Great. Thank you as always. Our next item is report on the implementation of AB 1390. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have something else, Ms. Coates?
Change in the presentation.
Okay. Mr. Riley?
Thank you, Madam President. Can I ask someone to bring me the clicker? That would.
I'm happy to click from here.
Oh, okay, that'd be great. So, good evening. I am going to give an overview of AB 1390 and its potential implementation. The purpose of the presentation is to provide an update regarding Assembly Bill 1390 pertaining to board member compensation, and to also summarize the subcommittee's work and recommended edits to Board Bylaw 9250. So the current status of EGUSD board compensation is per Board Bylaw 9250, where each member may receive a maximum monthly compensation of no more than $750, beginning July 1, 1991. Annual total cost right now for 7 board members is approximately $63,000 a year. That is, it's approximately, there's some statutory costs and such, but it's approximately $63,000. Board members qualify for district benefit packages, and the current stipend does not cover the 20% contribution for all of the plans that are an option for board members and employees. And the board members may decline a stipend. So an overview of AB 1390. 1390 went into effect January 1st, 2026. It does amend Education Code Section 35120, and it increases the maximum allowable monthly compensation based on prior year ADA, and it's important to note that that's average daily attendance, not enrollment. So currently our ADA is about 94%, so you take our total enrollment and apply the percentage, and that gives you our ADA. board action required to implement, board action is required to implement any change. AB 1390, monthly compensation. So with AB 1390, if your ADA is between $25,001 and $60,000 ADA, it's up to $3,000 per month. And then $60,000, if it exceeds $60,000 up to $250,000 ADA, it can be increased to $4,500 per month maximum. And the board may increase compensation annually up to 5% based on present monthly rate. So there was a smaller group of board members in a subcommittee. So it was 3 board members that participated in this review of AB 1390 and subsequently made recommendations. One was Jennifer Ballerini, another one Susan Davis, and Mr. Michael Vargas. And the work was supported by previous Superintendent Chris Hoffman and Karen Resendiz from Lozano Smith. The subcommittee focused on several areas. They reviewed the new legislation. They reviewed the history of Elk Grove Unified's ADA and considered projections, the board bylaw language options. It confirmed the stipend amount and what might be an effective date, and also payment criteria in the event that board members have to miss meetings, and also considered student board compensation. So in terms of board bylaw 9250, some structural options that were considered. Option one was each member may receive the maximum monthly compensation as provided in Ed Code section 35120. And option 2 is comprised by each member may receive a fixed monthly compensation of a specific dollar amount. So for illustrative purposes, the fiscal impact right now, as stated earlier, $63,000 annually. And with an increase to $3,000 a month, given that ADA range, which we are in between 60,000, $25,001 and up to 60,000, would be approximately $252,000 annually. So the net increase would be approximately $189,000 annually, and this would be funded from the general fund. In terms of an implementation timeline, if approved in February, new stipend would be effective March 2026. And if the ADA exceeds $60,000, if the ADA exceeds $60,000 in 2025-2026, the maximum increases to $4,500 beginning in the 2026-2027 school year. And it's important to note the monthly stipend may not be applied retroactively, so it would be prospective. So after the subcommittee met, they came forth with the following recommendations. One is to adopt the CSBA Gamuts Option 1, which provides for the maximum compensation based on EGUSD's prior year ADA of less than $60,000, which was based on the 24-25 school year. If approved and a member attends all board meetings in the month, the monthly remuneration would increase from $750 to $3,000. With the proposed edits to Board Bylaw 9250, if EGUSD's ADA is over $60,000 in the 25-26 school year, the maximum monthly amount would increase to $4,500 in July 2026 for the 2026-2027 school year. The recommendations would add language to that the board will consider up to 5% increases beginning July 2028 and every July thereafter. The increase maximum compensated for missed meetings from 2 to 3. So board members would be able to miss up to 3 meetings with a board resolution required. And bylaw would also change to define hardship to include an unavoidable work conflict. And then for student members, the recommendation is $400 per month based on attendance at regular board meetings only, with resolution authority for up to 3 excused absences. And that's just important. The special board meetings happen during the day while the student has school. And that concludes the report on AB 1390.
Thank you. Are there any blue cards related to this item?
Madam President, there are no blue cards on this item.
All right. Questions or comments? This is a discussion. So this is the committee bringing it back to us and a first time for everybody to make comments. So it flows a little more casually. We'll go through and talk, and then feel free afterwards. I will open it back up to make comments and discuss with each other. This is kind of a different way of work. Lots of times we just get things, say things, and move on. But this is a way for us to put in our comments. So we'll start with Ms. Ballerini.
Okay. Yeah, because of the Brown Act, we can't all talk about it in a room other than this. So we have to do it out in the open, which is just the way it works. So that's okay. I will say that I was on the subcommittee, so we had quite a discussion over how much should we make it be? Should we go ahead and be the maximum, et cetera? And you know what? I'm going to let Susan count the numbers. She's much better at throwing the numbers out for what it looks like over time, et cetera. I just wanted to say that obviously I retired from the district after 31 years and took 4 years to help raise the grandkids for a little bit during COVID, and then decided, why don't I run for the board? So I did, and it is a lot of work running for school board. It really is, especially if you have an opponent. And I got a lot of help from the bargaining units here in front of us, and I appreciated everything that they did. I got help from my family, other friends, et cetera. And now I'm here, and I am enjoying the work. It's very rewarding to be able to go out to the actual schools that I've seen on paper. Actually, when I worked in facilities, I've been to every single school in the district at least once. So there's that. But now as a board member, I have a different lens on my head. I was at one school last week, and we were touring the campus, and it was just wonderful to see everybody doing what they needed to do for all of the students, and watch the assist people at recess, and check on the swing set, not swing set, the playground gym area, because they have a slide that needs work, and make notes about things that need to be done. And principals have a pretty hard job. I'm going to say their job is very intense. They don't necessarily have time to check on all those things, and I'm very happy to take those things forward and see what I can do to get things move faster, or just to give them a date for when something's going to be ready or people are going to come out there. I consider I'm a liaison in my book. I'm a liaison between the district and each individual school, and any parents that I see while I'm there, I will talk to them and find out how they feel certain things are going. I think it's important that they see us at the schools, and they have said that they do like having us at the schools. I've made quite a lot of visits out to the schools. There's actually a spreadsheet that we're updating, and I could probably bring numbers and stuff forward for you later. Right now, Mr. Yang is in charge of the spreadsheet, so he's got the final one. I don't know what the numbers are there, but I know that all of us board members have been out attending events, or just going out to tour the schools, and it takes a lot of time. It takes gasoline to get everywhere, all of those kind of things. And the truth is, I wasn't even sure how much the job paid when I applied for it. It's the truth. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, that'll help cover some of the expenses. Okay. The $3,000, I was like, whoa, that's a lot of money. But when you look at the numbers, as Ms. Davis will show you in a few minutes, it's amazing how it hasn't happened to this point, how nothing has happened to get a raise to this point. And it's too bad because it wouldn't seem like so much all at once. And I was afraid of the look of giving us a raise at the time where we're laying people off, because I very clearly, as AFSCME president at one time, remember we gave an employee the Employee of the Year award for AFSCME that morning, and that afternoon she was seen was going to HR and again saw me because her job was being cut and she was being laid off and had to take a different job. I know it hurts, and I think we did a great job, and I appreciate the cabinet and all of the employees' working on getting everything done with the ESSER money, all of that work that was done so that we have very few people to lay off. I think we should go ahead and do the amount that we set on there, and it just means basically that I will be probably working quite a bit more just because I have my own ideas of how many schools I need to visit in a week or in a month and what I need to do, and that's me personally. Some of them have other jobs. My only other job is taking care of my grandkids after school, and I can work around that. So pretty much get ready to see me out there at more schools than I've been before if we have the money to do this. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Ms. Davis?
Well, I hope I'm as good at explaining the numbers as you think, Jennifer. Watching this go through the Assembly and the Senate was really interesting to watch. When it was first proposed, well, it was proposed because it has not been raised for 42 years. This amount was set into place in 1984 with no changes, no compensation changes, no, even though the work has changed exponentially. What was originally proposed, the $3,000 was originally over $5,600, and the over $60,000 was originally over $12,000 per month. That was negotiated down during the hearings. It's all on the internet. You could check it out if you'd like. But it was negotiated down to the 3%. They had originally gotten to those figures by doing 5%, I believe 5% for every 5 years that it was not raised is what got them to those higher numbers. That kind of a raise would be unrealistic. So that it was negotiated down to the $3,000 and the $4,500 where we would fall into, considering we're one of the largest districts in the state. If you look at it, I did ask if they would crunch the numbers to let us know how much of the general fund that raise would ultimately take up of the general fund, and it would be 1/100th of 1% at the 3,000, and it would be 2/100ths of 1% if it was at the 4,500. So it sounds like it's a large amount of money, and especially where we're trying to find money for other people in the overall picture for what is done and what is expected, it's not a large amount. One of my reasons for running was to try to replace someone who had been on this board for many, many years and never had anyone who would run against him. And unfortunately, that's the case in almost 1,500 school board races in the 49 California counties. They say 56% of the races don't appear on the ballots because there's nobody willing to step up and run. So that single candidate runs unopposed election cycle after election cycle after election cycle. I represent a very large, diverse community in a very economically depressed area
with families that work multiple jobs, caring for extended families, navigating real financial instability. For many of them, public service is not inaccessible because of the lack of commitment or talent. It's inaccessible because of cost. Serving on a board of a district as large and complex as Elk Grove, it's not a volunteer activity in practice. It requires extensive time commitments, weekly meetings, preparation, document reviews, community engagement, training, school events, and responding to urgent issues that don't operate on a part-time schedule. The responsibility is year-round and ongoing, and we take that on willingly. When compensation limits are outdated, as this has been for 42 years, the effect is not neutral. It systematically excludes working-class parents, caregivers, and highly skilled community members from economically depressed areas who cannot afford to reduce paid work to serve. That directly impacts who has a voice at this table and whose lived experience informs our decisions. AB 1390 is not about mandating raises or personal gain. It's about removing structural barriers so service is accessible to people without financial privilege. It gives districts flexibility to better reflect their communities and to recruit and retain board members who have both the capacity and the lived experience to govern effectively. If we're serious about equity, representation, and accountability, especially in a district as diverse as Elk Grove, we must also be serious about making public service possible for our communities we serve. If we believe diverse lived experience improves decision-making, then we have to make participation possible for people without financial privilege. When I got this job, or got elected, I didn't realize we even got paid for it. It was a surprise. You know, I don't take the benefits because I am blessed enough to have retired from the district. But also by taking on this, just as an example, I'm just using myself as an example, I take the ability to sub in the district or to have future earnings or things to help supplement my family. I live in that economically depressed area. My income equals where I should be. Work is something my husband and I have always done. We've worked 2 and 3 jobs sometimes. There are many people out there that would be fantastic at being a board member and bringing a voice to that community, but can't afford it. We speak equity daily up here. We have to provide those opportunities for those families too, and we can't do it on $750 a month for these families. That's who we're doing this for, is we're updating and bringing us up to date from 1984. It's if we want people to lead, we have to show that their skills are worth what we're willing to pay them, that their value is more than our lowest paid employees in the district. We've got to do better for we've got a lot of stuff we've got to do coming up in the future, and we need to hear the voices of our full community, like I said, not just our financially privileged that can afford to do this for the lower amount. But I will pass that on to the next person.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Ms. Baldwin?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation and the transparency regarding this item. Very awkward indeed for us currently to have to discuss it, but it is our responsibility. And I appreciate the conversation. I too didn't realize that we got a stipend to serve. It was a little bit surprising. And the thing is that, yes, I understand that all of us up here would be benefiting significantly by this, given what the stipend is currently. But what this means for the future of Elk Grove and our district is very very much what you just mentioned, Susan. The opportunity for more families or individuals who want to take up this leadership role, this will make it more possible for them. And I think that that is something that we really should think clearly about, because it is more likely that someone in this role is likely retired or comes from a very wealthy financial means. And so all of us up here have our various reasons for wanting to serve, and I know it wasn't because of a potential pay increase. However, thinking about what this means for, equity in terms of our future, potential new, leadership voices coming into these roles, it really is going to open that door. And I think that's something that we should be proud of, and to have that opportunity. We're not just thinking of now, we're thinking of our future. Also with this, I really value that we'll have the opportunity to invest in our student board member to receive a stipend for the work that they do and the time that they give up in their evenings. We did have, from Laguna Creek High School, not a single student put in to be a board member. And, this is more of an incentive for them to see this as an opportunity to serve, give their insight, and walk away with a really meaningful experience where they felt valued because they also were able to receive a stipend out of it. I think that sets a precedence that's important for people to understand their worth and their value and what they offer, despite their background, despite their inexperience, despite where they live. And I think that that's something that's really valuable. So yes, I agree, awkward conversation for now, but I do think it opens the doors for our community to really have a pathway for more voices and new leadership that will want to come and compete for these roles and allow the voters to decide who is the best for them. So that's where I stand.
Thank you. Ms. Moore?
Thank you. I am glad that we're first bringing this forward as a discussion item, and I've also requested that when we bring it back, that we bring it back as an action item and not on the consent agenda, because I do believe that transparency is essential, especially in this particular matter. I think this presentation is important to explain Assembly Bill 1390 and the context of this item. As was mentioned, the school boards have not been given a raise since 1984. I did ask questions specifically what the actual cost of living adjustment would be if we were adjusting that rate from 1984 based on the $750 stipend. Do you still have that number, Mr. Riley?
I don't have it off the top of my head. It's in my email. I can look it up.
I think it was about $2,200. Does that sound right?
I think that figure was from 1991.
Oh, from 1991.
And then there was another question about had EGUSD enacted the stipend since 1984, what would it be? And that amount was higher.
Okay. Yeah, I did want to compare that number just for kind of some context. I do have some questions on items not the recommendations that aren't specifically related to the actual stipend increase. I was curious why it's recommended that we change the number of allowed missed meetings from 2 to 3.
Anybody willing on the committee to answer that?
I can kind of spitball, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, and Karen can correct me if she has a better memory than I do. But I think it was because the statute allows up to 3. And so I think that was why we went, or the recommendation was that we do 3. And so I think that's why we did.
I believe we also were taking into consideration the amount of special board, this was including special board meetings and scheduled board meetings, and people who had employment and was not able to attend special board, get off to attend the special board meetings that was during the day. So work-related reasons for missing the meetings would be covered and still allow some for illness also.
Mic is on. Can you hear me? So the law doesn't specify. It leaves it to the board to determine based on your board policies, but that was the rationale that was discussed, was the frequency of Elk Grove Unified School District board meetings, especially the addition of special board meetings, and the fact that a lot of the board members have that obligation to work during the workday when those special board meetings are held.
And I think just to give some context from my part of the discussion was, I think there was 1 year where I missed 3 board meetings, and I think the reason why we kind of settled on 3 was I thought anything more than that, and you're just not getting enough of the information to be effective. And, you know, but like having missed 3 in a year, I felt like I was able to catch up enough to make that a reasonable expectation. So,
thank you.
Was ours previous? Was ours previous 2?
It was 2.
Okay, thank you.
It is 2 right now.
I have to say, I feel I take issue with that because we're looking to increase our salary, but then also looking to excuse ourselves from another meeting. I personally don't feel that is right. That's what I'm saying for myself. I also think I find it, I don't think it's good for us to also define hardship to include unavoidable work conflict. And again, in this conversation where we're looking at increasing our compensation, that we're also looking at adding an unavoidable work conflict to that. So those are 2 issues that 2 points within the recommendation that I do not feel comfortable with. And then regarding the 5%, I believe that's what is allowable within the the language of the Assembly bill, but I don't think, as I'm going to be looking at that in the future, I'm going to be looking at what are we giving to our employees. I don't think it's appropriate to be giving ourselves a higher raise than our employees. So that's where I stand on that. But I mean, that is written within the language. And then I do think it's appropriate to give the student board member $400 per month. I agree generally with most of what has been said. We do work really hard. I work very hard. I do have big goals to continue to amplify my work and advocacy. So that's it for my comments right now. But I did want to point out that I feel uncomfortable with the increase of the increased maximum compensated missed meetings. I feel uncomfortable with that, and I also feel uncomfortable with defining hardship to include an unavoidable work conflict. Thank you.
Could I respond?
Oh, yeah.
On the percent raise, the way that was included to have a discussion, not a guarantee that we would have the raise, but to avoid the same thing happening for 42 years, we would at least We put it off for 3 years. And then it was a discussion, but all of us pretty much agreed that it should never be more than what we approved for the employees and our bargaining units. So the 5% was put in there by the state, but we put in the up to so that it could be discussed at a lower amount. And some years might not even approve it, just that we would discuss it and make the decision whether we would or not. Setting that in place. The 3 days just as a work commitments, health was also one of the reasons brought in. People have unavoidable life experiences that could keep them from coming to the meetings. I know I had a pretty heavy-duty surgery when I first became a board member and missed meetings and probably pushed myself back sooner than I should have to not use up my dates that I might need in the future. So we just wanted to give some flexibility for life.
I agree with health and illness issues, but I take issue with adding in unavoidable work conflicts when we're looking at increasing our compensation. That's just my personal.
Well, the unavoidable work conflicts was already in there. We just added one more day to allow if there were other things like health, illness. We don't want people coming ill.
So that language was already in there, the unavoidable work conflicts?
Is in there, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Vargas.
All right. I agree with a lot of what my colleagues have already said, so I'll try not to repeat them. Yeah, as one of, I think, 2 board members who works a full-time job on top of this, it is a lot keeping up with everything. And I think one of the things that, I noticed and has been frustrating is that there have been instances where, because our compensation is tied to showing up to meetings and not tied to the various other things that we do for the district, it's frustrating to miss a meeting and suddenly, I have to, shell out extra money for, our benefits, our health benefits, despite the fact that I'm doing, 10 hours, 12 hours of additional work each week, showing up to schools, sitting on subcommittees, doing 2x2s, all of the various additional things. And so unfortunately, we can't change that. The law requires that it be connected to our board meetings. So if we don't show up to a board meeting, that's all that matters. And so I think one of the things adding the unavoidable work conflict, or having that in there is important, because that then gives us the ability to say, okay, I missed a meeting, I missed one meeting. I think there was one year where I missed 2 meetings in a row, 1 month, because I had work, I had work travel. And that's just, I still was working that month. I was still showing up at schools. I was still doing all of the background work. I was still answering emails. I was still talking to constituents. I was still doing all of the outside stuff, but then, wasn't actually getting compensated for it. And so I think that it's important to have that, because it ensures that we are getting, that we're compensated for the work that we're actually doing, and not just for showing up to board meetings. Now, is it important that board members show up to board meetings? Absolutely. As I mentioned, I think, when I missed meetings, it was hard to catch up, and that needs to be a thought process. But ultimately, I think, that decision, it becomes, or it should be obvious to people when someone is not doing their homework, and when someone is not showing up to schools, and when someone is not doing the work. And I think it has been obvious in the past, when that is not happening. And ultimately, that's a decision for the voters to make, to decide that person, that they no longer want that representation on the board. But I think our compensation should be based on, the work that we're actually doing, or is closely tied to the work that we're actually doing. And I think that this allows us to do that. And remember that the missing 2 to 3 board meetings is real. It has to be an excused issue. So if it still is like I just planned a family vacation, that has happened in the past where that was when the family vacation was, that's not excused, right? That's still you missed the board meeting. And so there are sort of breakers in place, for a lot of these things. And I agree with, I want to echo what Ms. Davis said around the 5% increase. We discussed this at length, and I agree that the consideration should be as it is for, in many other circumstances, we are considering any increase in salary after we've already done negotiations. So we have all of that information in front of us, and we're aware of what our bargaining units have gotten, and so we can take that into consideration when we're doing this. I definitely, for my part, it would be uncomfortable to do any increase beyond what our employees have gotten. And I think that's partially where I fall on this is, I will poke a little bit at our EGEA friends and say, look, if you guys hadn't gotten a pay increase in 40 years, you guys would be apoplectic. You would not be happy with us. And so, but I definitely take the critique. And so I think what we're trying to do here, as much as it is painful and awkward, and anytime a board or a body has to set its own pay and its own compensation, that is an awkward conversation to have. But I think what we're trying to accomplish is to get back to a baseline of where we should be, and then we can have these conversations a little bit more organically going forward. And I think that the recommendations accomplish that and get us to what I think is a good place in terms of this is going forward where we should be. This is what the next person to sit in this chair should get. I'm comfortable that whoever the next person to sit in this chair, will get this, and we'll have these conversations, and we'll be, in what I think is a good starting position when it comes to compensation. So I think that's the only other thing that I will poke at is that is the question of timing. It is obviously unpleasant to have this conversation sandwiched between, the conversation that we had to have around budget priorities and the conversations we are going to have going forward, going into a budget, a third or fourth, depending on how you classify it, frustrating budget year. And so that timing is not fantastic. But what I will also point out is that, from what we're hearing, at the state level is we're looking at years and years and years of structural problems. And so I don't know that we're going to have a great budget year. I don't know that we're going to have a great time to do this at any point in the future. And so I think that we just have to rip the Band-Aid off and do it. And it's painful, and it's awkward, and it's frustrating, and it's going to be even more frustrating, in our next few meetings. But we have to do it, and I think that it is appropriate to do it. So with that, I will pass it back.
Thank you. So I have mixed emotions about giving ourselves a raise this large, but I feel the need for an increase is merited, definitely. Discussing this with someone who was on the board 35 years ago when they started stipends, she shared that they were put in place to allow people other than the privileged few to serve on the board, and you can read as that as you would like. They started at $80 a month, and that allowed her to hire a babysitter and come be on a board. I used the stipend the same way when I started on the board, to hire a babysitter every Tuesday night so I could come either go to the library and do my work or come here. The idea of equity by offering a stipend large enough to support anyone willing to serve in this position, I think is a very worthy goal. And in fact, after thinking about it, I think it's the only goal we really need to have in this consideration. That's where we should be coming from. We're the top of this organization, and we should all have a concern about how we take this raise, how it's viewed by the staff, how it's viewed by our employees, and I heard that from everybody here. I don't think that goes unnoted. Many people don't know what we do. Many of my other fellow board members talked about it. I think some other things to add is when you start a term, there's a lot of large chunks of time in learning that is required. We ask our members to go through Masters in Governance, which helps us be professional board members, which is a really important part of who we are. We give up 3 days at Golden One celebrating graduates, which is the best part of our work, but also means we're not with our families at the end of the year. I'm not at my kids' end of the year school parties. I'm not at the fair. There's a lot of things. It's a give and take. But I think there's a weight to being the biggest employer in our area. We're fiscally responsible for over $1 billion. But the biggest toll on this job is definitely the responsibility to care for and educate our students and families. And that weighs heavy on you, and that's with you all the time. And I think a classroom teacher understands that. They feel it for their students. They feel it for their fellow employees. So there's a level of commitment and true care for this district that comes from this dais. Many people said they didn't know there was a stipend when they got in, and this state making this law opened, like very logically opened the discussion for an increase. It should not cost money to serve. I currently owe the district money because I did go help my son in Switzerland who's in school. But it also shouldn't be, you shouldn't run to get a salary. So there's that give and take that you're wrestling with. We're the leaders, and our focus is on serving students, and that's where it should be. We have a beautifully diverse community, and our current stipend could very reasonably considered a barrier to have people run for this office. What's expected, and I believe that 100%. So coming with that lens, I look at the committee's suggestions, and I have issue with choosing. I do not agree with choosing option 1, and I would like to throw out choosing option 2, a one-time raise in stipend. I feel the amount is generous and reasonable. Our city council makes about $2,500 a month. $3,000 a month is what the law says for us. It is the size we are at. It makes sense to me. And option 1, and the amount's very generous, and I don't really want to say it, but it's already been said on the mic, that's a 400% raise. And you're not going to get away from that. I've already read 3 other news articles who've done this, and that is going to be the title when the news comes out. We're facing that right now. Option 1 opens up the possibility as well to take an additional raise of $1,500 in 2026. So I think we all know that as a district we're working on ADA, and I think it's very reasonable to think that that's going to be a change this year, and then for it to just automatically get increased by another 50% without ever coming back here, and we're going to the top of where we are, and then we're saying if we get an increase to go right over that bump, then we're going to the top of the next section, and that's just that's unreasonable to me. That's like too much. I think $3,000 makes a lot of sense. And I think the structure of opening it up to have this discussion yearly, it's uncomfortable now. And we can look forward to that like every July. I would not have looked forward to that in my service. I think you make a jump, you make a statement, you take the hits that are going to happen. We take the comments that are totally fair. And raising it up yearly feels like a salary chart and not a stipend. And the idea of a stipend is to cover your expenses, the expenses we've talked about, putting gas in your car, buying something like buying clothes to be presentable at graduations. There's certain expectations that this job has, and I believe that stipend would allow us to meet those expectations for somebody new to come in. And so that was really important to me, is I don't want it to feel like we've put ourselves on a salary schedule and it needs to get negotiated every year and it needs to be brought up every year. I think maybe we could put in to look at it every 3 years, and we put it in the books, and we go back and we look at it every 3 to 5 years and have that discussion. But I think leaving it there every year, we have so many unions and so many people we're trying to work with, and I don't think there's a way to not have this feel almost hurtful, and I don't think we want to do it every 12 months, because then you've got the month leading up to it, when it happens, and the month afterwards. So now we've got 3 out of 12 months that this brings up over and over and over. So that's my thought with that. We are at our lowest reserve in 10 years. And for people that haven't been here a long time, they might not know my fiscal conservatism. I don't know if that's even a word, but it's unsettling. It's unsettling to me as a person. And I think this is very merited, this is very fine, but we gave raises to our staff to do a stretch. And I appreciate Ms. Davis's calculations of what a small amount it is, but you can't deny that that's also, it's some jobs. It's equal to jobs as well, if you look at it that way. So I feel somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000 a month. It sounds like $3,000 is very, very, by law, we're at the top. It's at the top. It makes sense to me. And if we just go right over the border, staying there, we're right in that range. Is a student board member paid for the 9 months they serve? Is that, That was my other question. Well, not currently. Like in this model, thinking of paying it one, that would be for the 9 months they serve from the school year, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that was one of my questions that just didn't get answered. I kind of go back and forth on the meetings. Like, we have 24 meetings. If I miss 3, I'm over 10%. I've driven back from Tahoe, San Luis Obispo, Pinecrest. I've left family vacations in the middle to drive back here, to turn around and drive back so I can be here for the meetings. The meetings are so important because it's where we run our transparent, open. This is where we run this district in front of everyone, and they're just super important. But I can hear, I am that privileged person that can run for this, and that it hasn't mattered, that it hasn't been a person, and I recognize that. So, and my family and my nonprofit and my other things are my job other than this. So, I think the 3 meetings is understandable. That doesn't bug me. It has a weird feel to it. I agree with Ms. Moore. We're going to excuse more meetings, but we're going to get paid more. So I get that, where you're coming from, Ms. Moore, but I think I can understand that. And so I would love to hear comments. Those were my thoughts when I looked at this. See, please speak.
Okay. From a student perspective, as the student board member, just logistically speaking, for me personally, I come after school, from school, I have to go home, get ready for this, for my role. It's never said, but it's expected for you to show up in professional wear, and I do show up in professional wear when I have time. However, today I had to come straight after practice, so I tried my best. I have my tie, but for my thank you. For my suit, I did not realize how expensive suits were until I actually went out and purchased the suit, and I was like, wow. Yeah. So there's definitely miscellaneous costs, I would say, for the student board member. I think the main cost is definitely between gasoline and my personal time for this role, because not only am I attending board meetings here as well, but I'm also going to volunteer events at various elementary schools or at different places inside Elk Grove, whether that's for volunteering events at churches or different just miscellaneous things, I want to say that's the best way for me to categorize what I do as a student board member is to advocate for students and to be a voice for the students and bring my voice as a student to my board members. That's all.
All right. I can start again. We started with Ms. Ballerini. Ms. Davis, do you want to start? We'll kind of go back through if there was any more comments or.
Well, the yearly increases, we were kind of stuck on that also because it is wording that is in the law that says that 5%, that they will address the 5% yearly. We didn't agree with going right into that. That's why we put the 3-year out, and we wanted to add the up to so that we could have discussions. It was mainly not an expectation like it would be ongoing raises all the time, but just a check-in. Are we staying up with inflation? I mean, everybody who has served has been stuck in that 42 years that this didn't get addressed or spoke about or talked about. And that's what we were trying, that's why we had put that in there, was just for a discussion, not a guarantee or an expectation that a raise would be given, but just that a discussion would be had. So.
And can I add to that? I think one of the things, one of my worries about not doing it yearly is that then we run into the same situation all over again. We end up running into the same buzzsaw. Is if we're doing it yearly, we're making sure that we are conscious of where our bargaining units are every year. And so if our bargaining units get 1% that year, then we can consider, okay, do we want to do 1%? But if we kick it out 3 or 5 or more years, then suddenly we're saying, you know, oh, well, our bargaining units got 1% this year, but we want 5% because it's been 3 years, right? And that's not necessarily what they're going to hear, right? They're going to hear, we got 1%, you get 5%, right? And so I think by doing the yearly check-in, we actually sort of like, it's the right way to put it, like we tie it more closely to where people are every year, rather than running into a situation where we are, you know, getting a backlog and we have to then bump it up further than people might be comfortable with in any one situation. So, and the reality is our expenses increase every year just like everybody else's, right? And so I think doing it every year takes the fire out of it, takes the drama out of it, because we can tie it to what the bargaining units got, assuming that the board in place at that time wants to do it. I think that is what we had considered as a subcommittee, was that we would tie it to that, but that would be up to the board. So.
Is anyone willing to consider the other option?
So does your option includes not, or remaining at the $3,000 and not doing the annual raises?
Yeah.
I think you were saying option number 2 on the slides. So
I'm sorry.
It would be you upping
I
it.
was saying option 2.
Yes.
So it's a straw poll, it's a conversation. Option 2 with a look at it every 3 or 5 years, whatever people would think. Would people, I just really feel it has a different feel. It has a feel of covering expenses and making sure you're compensated versus, and I think other people seem to be more comfortable with tying it to like what our unions get or what these people get, but I just think we're more of like an umbrella part of it and not the employee part of it. And it has a different, it means something different to me. And that might just be me, and that's fine. That can be the way I think versus the way someone else thinks. But would anyone else be up for considering a fixed monthly compensation with a determined date and time to look at, which is easy to do. it's doable, versus a yearly. And then I really do want to push on the second part of the $4,500 raise. The raise to $4,500. So anybody else?
Well, I don't think we were totally vested in, I mean, it's not a hill that I would be willing to die on, you know, of the raises. Like I said, it was more of a keeping an eye on it so that this didn't happen again. And was more of a discussion point, not that we would actually necessarily be negotiating a raise to it, but rather, where are we? What's it look like? Are we at the place?
Do you think every 2 years might work, Susan? Because people serve 4-year terms offset with each other, so it would happen during every person's tenure.
Right.
Would that make sense to you?
That would work. That's why I think we put in after we worked through this, we put it out for a couple years before we even started discussing that.
Okay.
We wanted to see how how the dust settled, how did it fit, was it working, and then we would address it again. And I think the year was 2028 was when we would start any discussions towards it.
And just remember, and Karen can correct me if I'm wrong again, but the maximum is 5% every time we consider it, not 5% per year. So if we switch to every other year, that means it would be up to 5% increase every 2 years. It wouldn't be 10% every time we consider.
Right.
So just putting that, and that I'm right. Okay. So just putting that out there is further information.
I agree that every 2 years would be a good change.
Yeah, I could agree to that. I think the 4,500 is a formula that the state has set out based on the ADA. I think that in our district, it just might not be comfortable right now because we're right at that mark. If we had hit that ADA last year, we wouldn't even have this discussion, would it be raised? But it's no different than I think when we start, like I said, I think it's just timing. The fact that our ADA is going up, which is great. That means our kids are coming back. They're at school. But I think the state has put thought process into the sizes of the districts that we're running. There's not many districts that are going to have that above 60,000 in ADA. And I don't think it would be inappropriate not to take that or provide that for future board members. That's a lot. It's a bigger business we're running here than other districts.
Okay, so it sounds like we have agreement that looking at it every 2 years makes sense, because that'd be, and so this election cycle will be 2026, and 2 years into that one would be 2028, which I think was your recommendation to start with, and we'll just clarify that it's looked at every 2 years.
One thing I would like to add too on the ADA, it's also, because of the way it's written, if our ADA decreases, we would go back down. We run the option of it going up or down based on our ADA.
Mm-hmm.
So I think having it tied to something rather than just a set amount helps us to encourage and be pushing the schools to have our kids at school. And now I don't know.
I don't know
if that's really.
I don't know. Like, if we've got schools we're going to. Like, if more kids are showing up or more kids are not showing up.
No, I don't.
That's not affecting my
I don't
life.
think I said that correctly. It's an amount that was set in. It was negotiated.
It's been through a process. Yeah.
They set that amount. Like I said, it was brought way down from what was originally proposed. Like, we would have been looking at a 5,600 to a 12,000 range. We're now down to a $3,000 to $4,500 range.
Yeah, $56,000 is obscene to me. So it sounds great.
does. No disagreement here.
But it's, like I said, it's just trying to update and bring us up
I have
2 years.
I'm in.
If
I'm
we
in.
spread that 400% out over 42 years, it would not have the optics that it has.
As I've said, I am all in that there is an equity issue. And we have made a commitment to try to take away barriers in this district. And to me, this is an example of doing that. I think how far we're going is really the conversation I'm trying to lead.
I love the work, but I hope it ends at some point. When I was a union person, or a meet and confer, I ended up being there 15 years because nobody else wanted to step up. I don't want that to also be the career on the board of staying longer than maybe I should, because nobody in my area wants to step up.
Yeah, that's never.
I don't want to.
I mean, from the start, that's not the question.
I just wanted to have be an option for people that don't have the financial ability.
100%.
To do it.
I don't think, and like many things on this board, we're all here for what were, I think, our own true reasons. And I think at this point, we agree on more than we disagree on. And we're just trying to work through some facts. So when it comes back, it can go. We don't go into it. Tonight's the night to talk about it, is my thought. And it's so anything else we wanted to add, the 2-year review, I still have an issue with the 40, and then the other thing is it's up to, and we're right at the edge, so then we spill over, but then we take a 50% additional raise, and it's up to $250,000. So at $250,000, you should definitely be making $4,500. What should you be making right over the $60,000 range? It's a range, and we at the top, and then we jump to the second top. And so that's where I have issue with that. Does that make sense? So I can sit here and I can defend in the grocery store a 400% raise. I can take it on the chin in the title. I can take it in the newspaper. But if with no discussion and no talk, we hit ADA, which we have asked our unions and our people to work harder to get to and tied their salaries to, and it results in me getting another 50% salary, I can't defend it. And if I'm the only one who has a problem up here, that's fine, because I'm one of 7, and I do have a little extra because I'm leading the discussion, but I really don't want to dominate the discussion, but I feel strongly. Please help me get to a point where I could defend that.
I mean, so my pushback on that would be, you're assuming that the number for each range is the top mark, right? So that's how much somebody should be making at $59,999. And I think my thought process is that the number in the statute is the floor. And so what I think of is that somebody saying, okay, once you hit 6,000, once you hit 60,000, we think you should be at 4,500 and then building on that as you grow, right? Building on that every year. And I think that's consistent with the numbers that we got from staff, that if we had been growing every year since 1980 or whenever you guys started the numbers, that's kind of where we would be. And so I think that's a fair number if you treat it as like, this is where we think the starting point should be for this range. That makes sense to me. Now we can disagree on whether you think that number is the appropriate number. But for me, I think thinking about it as the starting point, like once you hit 60,000, this is an appropriate starting point, and then you grow from there, makes sense. I think, if we have, good Lord, if we have 100,000, 200,000, 250,000 kids in our district, that is what, upwards of 100, 150 schools, having only 7 of us on the board is going to feel like not enough again, because there are days when I
It'll
feel
change.
like having there are days when I feel like having only 7 of us is not enough for now. So I think, I think as 4,500 is not going to feel like very much once we hit 100,000 ADA, whenever that happens. Once we hit 150,000 ADA, this is going to feel like a very provincial conversation. I think there's a reason why once you hit a certain threshold, it stops being a stipend and starts being a salary. Is because that one school district, we'll just call it what it is, that one school district is just so massive, it requires a full-time, attention. And so I think that's where my thought process is I think that's where we're in disagreement, is that you're thinking of the number in the statute as being the top of that ADA, and I sort of think of it as like once you dip into that ADA range, that's kind of the starting point.
Does the statute say up to?
Yeah, it says up to a certain amount.
So like it says between this amount, pay up to this amount.
Right. Right, except for the 5%.
And then it also allows for the up to 5% added annually.
Okay, so we're reading it differently. And so you have what it actually says. Oh, it starts here, though.
We have.
Want her to read it out loud? Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. We gotta get you on mic. Yeah, not micing. Can we get her on mic, please? Let's try again.
Okay.
Thank you.
So in terms of the set dollar amounts, they are not to exceed amounts. Not to exceed is the language that's used with the 5%. Calculation. It is a not to exceed. Both sections refer to it as not to exceed 5%, not to exceed 3,000, not to exceed 4,500. If that helps.
Would that put LA out of compliance right now? Because they're way over that now.
They can be over it if every year they've taken action to increase their amount from wherever they started by 5%. Okay. So the 5% concept was in place prior to this legislation.
And if I remember correctly, LAUSD is their own tier, right? Because
yes.
they're over 250,000 ADA, considerably
yes.
over.
Yes.
And so they're their own thing. And just to clarify, it's up to 4,500 plus the 5%.
In subsequent years.
Correct.
Yes.
So it's not like we are done at 4,500. It is 4,500, and then every year we can do 5% on top of whatever we're at.
That's correct.
Okay.
Upon board action.
Correct.
I do understand what Ms. Albiani is saying regarding, the giving ourselves a 400% raise, and then potentially in July, if the ADA increases, that would be an additional raise. So I would be open to option 2. I certainly agree that I don't think we should look at giving ourselves a raise every year. For several reasons that were already mentioned. So I am open to that. I mean, we could always put in language that we reconsider looking at, the ADA piece later. Anyway, I'm open to that. I just wanted to put that out there.
All right. I don't think we've made many decisions other than, I think most of the things you brought to, we did the 2-year thing starting in 2028. It looks like I don't have support to go to number 2 from no one else speaking up. And I do feel very strongly about the 4,500. I think we've read it. We both read it a different way. And so I would pull this to have a vote on it next time we get together. I'm just going to say right now, to try to get an amended motion and make a vote on that. And so you can consider the thoughts and the discussion we've had tonight, and it'll come back as an action item next time. And then I'd just like to get everyone on record for that option.
So are you saying you want the subcommittee to meet again to work out the particulars of that, to try and accommodate what you're saying?
I'm saying I think I'm outnumbered, so I don't think there's a reason for the subcommittee to meet again. I mean, you might consider what I've asked for, and but I am saying when we look at what you suggested, I heard just like in the conversation, I'm sorry, I've lost my computer because it's been so long. I think we've asked for, I think we've found consensus on every 2 years, not every year. Agreed? We found consensus on that. I think we found consensus on paying our student board member for the 9 months that they work. Can I use your mouse? Sorry. I'm just going down the line on what we agreed. I will take asking for option 2 again up. I'm just saying. I don't think we found, Heidi voiced concern about the meeting. I don't think we got to a majority point to change that suggestion. So I think the only thing that's laying out there still is an option 1 versus option 2, and going with option 1 and doing an automatic raise in July if the ADA comes in, versus doing an option 2 at a set fixed 3,000 with a reconsideration in 2028. And I think those are the two places we've come down to. Have I read that wrong? Is anybody? And so does the committee feel they'd like to get back together and talk about it? I don't think they have to, so they'll bring back a motion. We'll bring back your recommendation as stated, and then I will probably offer a separate motion, and that will get voted up or down, and then we'll move from there and just follow procedure, because that's, we go through the process. That's what it's about, transparently.
I think option 1 goes with ed code, and it just, the way we fell this year, right in the middle of a ADA increase, we're at the end of one tier, at the beginning of another tier. It was like it all aligned that way.
And I understand much better where you guys were coming from, and I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate the congenial, open, honest conversation.
I think sticking with the option 1 and with the ed code, the way it's written, and the Assembly bill and the Senate, how it was intended, keeps it much more clear of a process moving forward through the years than if we just arbitrarily pick a stipend amount and make that our fixed amount and then have to revisit it.
Okay.
It gives guidelines.
Yeah, and I think in 2 years you look at it and you say, we've been in this ADA for this many years, we should move to 4,500, and you take a raise at that point.
Right, and as we move up to that 250,000 mark and the work increases substantially, then
and every 2 years you can talk about the 5%.
We are just at a weird place that we're at the top of one tier moving into the bottom of another tier.
Yeah, and Michael and I read that differently. I read moving into the bottom of another tier as meaning not a $1,500 more dollars.
Okay.
And I think you look at that in 2 years and the ADA's there and it's backed up by this conversation and you could go there in 2 years, so.
I think if, there's been several school districts that have already addressed this and resolved this, and most of them have interpreted it similar to Michael.
Okay. And that's why we all get to have an opinion, because we represent different groups here.
And I do appreciate being able to have a conversation.
As a matter of fact, I just wanted to say, Tremaine, thank you. I know you're probably not listening, but Tremaine sends us things in the news every day. And today happened to be that the Fresno Bee, that Fresno Unified School District trustees are doing the same thing as far as they to increase their monthly stipend to the $4,500 starting February 1st. And Bakersfield did too. We've been trying to follow it along and see who's doing what, and they all seem to be doing the same things, reading it as the $4,500 for the higher attendance. Sorry, ADA, not necessarily attendance. Use the right words.
And I think Fresno's bigger than us. Yeah. They went to the $4,500. Yeah. Point taken. Heidi? Sorry, Ms. Moore.
I just wanted to say that if you're bringing forward the option to, maybe we could write out that, I don't know how that would look. It is an action item, but if that's an option, maybe write out what the details would be. For example, that we do not increase with the potential ADA increase in July, but we reconsider for example, in July 2028 when we were going to reconsider anyway. Maybe that would help to have more specifics if we want to have a second option. That's just an idea.
Yeah, I will definitely reach out to someone to help. We'll get that written up correctly to have a true option, a second option. But it's been very helpful to hear everybody's input, and I appreciate it. Okay, that subject's finished. We have any board member and superintendent reports. Ms. Baldwin.
Yes, so the Wellness Collaborative met. The team is doing some really great things. It's really exciting work. We met last week and reviewed really just kind of like how MTSS is what we use for our students, and really taking a lot of those principles and aligning it to how we can also support our staff and our families. So we did discuss an action plan, which included, just really making a really strong effort to ensure our staff understand the wellness programs that are available as being employed by the district. And just a plug, please take advantage of your wellness rebate program. It's definitely to your advantage to do that. Also, some really interesting things coming out with our family resource website. As many of you have seen, we've been doing some food distributions, and then we also discussed that we will be having a staff and family wellness series coming. So that is some interesting work, looking like it may happen like once or twice a month, offering person and by Zoom. Essentially just really seeing how we can build out how we take care of ourselves and our families and students. And then we also discussed some interesting ideas around how do we engage with the issue of like bringing treats and stuff to school in terms of like celebrations. I've definitely been victim of bringing the sugary treats and really just trying to be cognizant of, everyone's health needs. And, there's just, you don't want to, the good intentions that lead to bad outcomes. So I've definitely been a victim of that. And if we can be, more intentional about how we can encourage alternatives and supporting families with those types of, fun celebrations when it's birthday time, things like that. That's some great work that's coming out of that group.
Thank you. Mr. Varkers.
So most recently, we had our 2x2 conversation with the City of Elk Grove. So some quick updates from that conversation. As many in Elk Grove are aware, the city is considering a permanent shelter for its homeless population. Currently, there are 3. I don't think they've finished the conversation yet. Okay, I'm seeing no. So there are 3 sites in consideration. So everyone is if you live in Elk Grove and want to be part of that conversation, they have a website. You can just find the shelter website on the Elk Grove City's website and provide feedback on that. And the city will be considering it, I believe, at one of their next meetings. So that is out there in the world. We had a long conversation about safety concerns. The Elk Grove PD is aware of many of the concerns that have been brought up by families and community members, and they are working on it. I know e-bikes was an issue that came up, students crossing where they should not at various sites. So those are conversations that are being had. So everybody just be aware. Parking at Pleasant Grove High School came up a little bit. So that just everybody be aware, anybody who is parking, students who are parking near Pleasant Grove High School, just be aware that the parking situation around the school is changing. The one community south of Pleasant Grove High School is going to permit parking on the street. So best not to be parking there in the future. We are, as a district, are considering different ways to mitigate the parking issue, and those will pop up, starting next school year. So we are conscious of that. And then the last one was, as we continue to build more schools, we are conscious of the traffic issues that arise. And so it was definitely agreed that we are going to be working more closely with the city as we start to build schools, as they continue to build out these neighborhoods, that we are conscious of some of the traffic concerns. For example, what popped up around Miwok. As we continue to build schools, we will be more conscious of that, the traffic impact in the future. So that's it for us.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Riley.
I would just like to add that I think 7 is the perfect number for a school board.
Maybe 10.
Oh, I don't think I said that on mic. I adjourned the meeting at 8:49. Thank you, everyone.